Internet! Hello, you lovelies, and welcome to This Week in Comics. This week, we're going to be talking about James Spader coming back as Ultron for the first time in years. We're going to be talking about the Marvel for Dummies line coming out of Marvel. It's going to be summarizing 65 years of lore in a comic book, making it very contained, very good for jumping on books. We're going to be talking about that brand new Sonic 3 trailer that just dropped, maybe cementing it as the best video game trilogy of all time. Not that the bar is very high. We're also going to be talking about a couple DC things. We've got some Jimmy Olsen Pics, we've got some updates and some excitement over there. So all of that going to be covered today. Also, if you're new to this page in general, I cover comic book news, comic book reviews, as well as movie news and movie reviews. And this particular show, I give you all the news in comics, but I also break down my favorite comics of the week. I read about 70 comics a week, so you don't have to. I give you the 9 comics from the prior week I think you'll enjoy, and not only are they my favorites, I think they're the ones that are generally more approachable for new readers. Also, at the end of the episode, I break down a preview of all the books that week in comics. So, say today is August 28th, the books that are available at your local comic shop today. All of that in this episode and more. This is This Week in Comics.
Let's do the list. Spider-Man.
Guilty.
The Incredible Hulk.
Afraid so.
Oh man, this is so cool. The X-Men.
Now that you mention it.
Alright, let's kick it off with that Sonic trailer because it is brand new and it is breaking all sorts of trailer records with good reason. The Sonic trilogy is holy. The Sonic trilogy is fantastic. I love that first Sonic movie oh so very much. Not only is it the best example of a video game movie come to life, but it's actually one of the few times the internet being absolutely the most vocal, terrifying place made something for the better. There was once a terrifying, ugly Sonic that would not have broken records, would not have made for a good movie, and one simple design could have ruined this entire franchise, and now the design being much more like Sonic makes this one of the great franchises, and I think that should never be discounted. Sometimes you want things to be more comic/video game accurate. Now, Sonic is a prevalent comic book character. He started in video games, obviously, with Sega Genesis. It's one of my favorite video games of all time. I'm a Genesis guy. Even with Nintendo, Sega Genesis, I think, reigns supreme. But the Sega franchise was largely formed around Sonic, because Sonic had the 1 through 3, there was the 3D Sonic, once Knuckles came into play, and you got to insert the cartridge in the other cartridge, you'd play with Knuckles all the time. Sonic was awesome. But then the movies came out, and they reminded everyone why Sonic was so awesome. There was an animated series in the 90s that people loved that then got adapted into the comic book, so we're cheating it a little bit in here and having this in This Week in Comics. The trailer itself, I think, looks amazing. The first two, as I've said a few times, are amongst my favorites. The second Sonic, I think, is literally my favorite video game movie of all time, with Gran Turismo being my second favorite video game movie. And I think, honestly, this franchise has so much potential for people that are adults that grew up with it and kids. Like, the character works for children, it works for nostalgia, it works for all ages. It is very literally a full family film. Everyone in the family gets something out of it, and it's Jim Carrey back in his 90s vibe. And everyone wanted that Jim Carrey back. He came back to play Robotnik, and not only did he retire after Sonic 2, he unretired for Sonic 3. So we do have Jim Carrey back as Robotnik, and he's playing 2 roles here. He's playing himself, Robotnik, and his own father. So we're going to get 2 Robotniks, both played by Jim Carrey. We've also got the addition of Shadow. That's the big thing here. In the first film, we had Sonic. In the second film, we added Tails and Knuckles. Knuckles is Idris Elba. Tails is voiced by his actual video game and animated series voice actress, which makes me so happy. And Idris Elba is the perfect Knuckles, and he's actually got his own show. I missed it. I don't know if it was any good. Let me know in the comments below if the Knuckles show was good. But in this third one, we've got Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and fan favorite Shadow. And not only do we have Shadow, Shadow is voiced by none other than Keanu Reeves. So Keanu Reeves is another reason we had to include this, because this is an all-star insane cast. Keanu Reeves, Berserker himself, James Marsden is our human lead, Cyclops himself, Kristen Ritter is in this, which is awesome because she's Jessica Jones. This is an all-star comic book cast in something that is from the comic books as well, so we snuck it in. Sonic trailer looks great. If you haven't seen it, it is breaking all the records. It's a fun time. It's a family time. It looks really intense. I love the third act fight sequence they show a bit of in the trailer that looks like very Age of Ultron, which is our next story, very big and Avengers in scope. Really excited for this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Does this trailer excite you? Do you want to see more Sonic? And was that Knuckles show any good? It's the only thing I haven't seen from this little universe. All right, over to Spader, because that was the big comic news of the week. James Spader has 2 credited roles since 2015. One of them is Ultron, is in Age of Ultron. The other is in that show, The Black Hat. The man has not acted other than those 2 things in almost a decade. It's been 9 years. Him coming back as Ultron is a big surprise. 1, because he had effectively quietly retired, and 2, because of the way Age of Ultron ended. I was always bothered by Age of Ultron feeling like week of Ultron, month of Ultron. It wasn't really an age, it was like a little bit of time. And Ultron in the comic books is this malevolent force that is this undercurrent of fear of technology. He takes over Hank Pym, he gets into the internet itself, he's always evolving. And I was really kind of bummed that one of the most technocentric AI commentary, dystopian present characters was kind of thrown away as a oneer. And people always talk about the Marvel villain problem, especially in Phase 1 and 2. I think Ultron was a really big example of that villain problem, because Ultron shouldn't be able to be vanquished in one movie. The problem was everything in Phase 2 led to the big Avengers culmination film, which is what Phase 1, 2, and 3 did. There was always that big cap film. How do you end that movie without, taking out your villain? But it looks like he's coming back, and it's a very easy, well, how does he return? They don't even have to Palpatine this. They don't even have to somehow he return. He's literally in the internet. If something could ever replicate from nothing, it's Ultron. So this is really exciting for me because he's going to be in the Vision show. And a lot of people weren't that excited for the Vision show. I have been, because I personally think WandaVision's strength were in their relationship and a lot of the dialogue they gave, particularly to Wanda and Vision. Vision's entire ship of Theseus metaphor and the parallels between reality were fascinating to me, and Vision's always been one of those characters that can literally quote philosophy and make it part of the plot and not feel heavy-handed. You can add so many genius elements of storytelling through Vision that I'm really excited for his own show, and this is the perfect place to bring Ultron back, and I'm so excited at James Spader. The people that have taken over his voice and What If and stuff are perfectly great, but James Spader's insane baritone is so powerful and so captivating. He was perfect for Ultron. And all this praise, Age of Ultron's not even one of my favorite of the Marvel films. I think it's very fun, it's very good, but it had so many problems they had to retroactively fix in later films. I'm also really excited to feel a more cohesive story with Ultron, which hopefully comes to the Vision show as well. And in addition to James Spader coming back as Ultron, rumor has it Elizabeth Olsen may return in Vision as well. So this show, immediately near the top of my most anticipated list. Let me know in the comments below, are you excited for Spader to return? Are you excited for the Vision show in general? I'm a huge Paul Bettany fan. Anyone in A Knight's Tale has a lifetime of my loyalty, and he's playing one of my favorite odd, shouldn't work but does Avengers. So all of this is my exact jam. Bring on the philosophy, bring on the Spader. Vision comes out theoretically late 2025, early 26. We'll see how that goes. And Liz Olsen coming back is very exciting. Sticking with Marvel, let's talk about Marvel for Dummies. Marvel for Dummies is a new line of comics out of Marvel Comics that will be giving you all the tools you need to read comic books, and that is exactly what they need to be doing right now. So many people are intimidated by the comic store. So many people are intimidated by Spider-Man 761. I have to read 761 issues, and unlike manga, which starts at 1 and you just read on through, comic books aren't like that. Comic books have alternate titles. To keep with Spider-Man, there's Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, What If Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man, Untold Tales of Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man, Miles Morales Spider-Man, Sensational Tales of Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, the new Ultimate Spider-Man, Volume 2 of Ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man. That's just some of the Spider-Man. So I could see where it's intimidating. And Spider-Man, again, keeping that example, is going to have a Spider-Man Marvel Comics for Dummies. So all of that insane micro machines I just gave you is going to be summarized in a way that you could go, oh, that's an interesting storyline, and it's summarized, and then you can find that run. It's going to also catch you up on decades of continuity so you can read what's happening now. And this is long overdue. They've done things like this. There's Marvel encyclopedias. There's certain catch-all, Wikipedia pages that used to be printed out in actual books. And now there's Wikipedia, and there's a lot of guides online. But I feel like those are barriers of entry because you're going to have a path of resistance because you're going to have to go through another medium. I think the best thing to do to get people to read comics is print this out as a comic. And I'm very excited these comics are going to be available, I think, at Barnes & Noble, at various bookstores, in addition to comic stores. So the reason I do this show, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, this show is the one I ask for the most likes, the most comments, the most things to share, because comic book content does not do well on YouTube. I literally get 1/5 of the views making this as I do any movie review, and this takes a lot more editing and a lot more time, in addition to the 70 comics I'm reading. This show takes about 50 hours of work with the reading that I would do for fun anyway, but like with all of that involved, and the views are going to be like 1/5 of that, and I think that's what the studios see as well, and they're not as focused on the getting people to the comic store as I am. Like, me as a person, that's the medium I want you guys to explore. So I think they keep being like, oh, we should do something, let's get to it. But lately, with James Gunn, with this incredible push for DC by advertising the movies with comics, when he made the announcements, he showed the comics. He talked about specific storylines. Now, since the Batman, there have been comic book collections that are the books that informed that adaptation. With the Batman, there was like the Long Halloween, there was the Year One stuff, that collection came out. With Superman next year, there's already a collection for that. We are pushing, and then the compact comic stuff I did a whole special about last week, the compact comics that are manga size of Watchmen, of Hush, of certain like iconic DC books. Those are $10 each for the entire collection. If you bought those as floppies back in the day, they would have cost you like $25, $30. If you bought those as individual floppies now, those are all giant collector's item, could cost you hundreds of dollars. If you buy a trade, it's probably $25 to $30. But these small, compact, manga-sized stories are $10, and they're able to get you all caught up on that one particular story. So that's a genius move by DC. I've been wondering how Marvel was going to compete with that, and it seems to be this Marvel for Dummies line, which is going to get you, hey, that trade sounds nice, I want to grab that. Or, hey, I want to read blank character, where do I go? So this all starts, I think, as early as next month. They're going to be doing a Captain America one, a Spider-Man one, a Thor one, an Avengers one. All the big characters with lots of lore will be in these Marvel for Dummies books. So ask your local comic shop, ask your bookstore, look online, whatever way that if you're watching this, if you're 10 minutes into my video about comics, hopefully this interests you. This is the way that I think we get people into the comic shop. And if you're a loyal comic reader, I guarantee you, because I'm one of the only people that reads everything, and it's a lot, it's a job. If you're not reading everything, what a great way for you to discover a new character, or a character you saw in a movie or show, you're like, that's curious, like, what are they like? This is going to be that gateway. So Marvel for Dummies, I think, is a genius idea. Hell yeah, House of Ideas, more stuff like that. Speaking of DC and their compact comic books, couple little bits of DC news, a lot smaller than those big items from Marvel and from Sonic, but DC this week not only had their first official look at Jimmy Olsen, and I've been saying from the beginning, I think we're going to go look back and it's going to be like Robert Downey Jr. was born to play Iron Man, Ryan Reynolds was born to play Deadpool. Jimmy Olsen, man, that is Jimmy frickin' Olsen. I am flabbergasted by how perfect this casting is. These two images have me with more confidence than any stills I've seen from stuff in a very long time. Elated for this, cannot wait to see it. I just literally wanted to share those two images. I made a whole line item in my breakdown just for these two images. I hope you'll like them as much as I do, because I fully freaked out. Also in the world of DC Comics and the world of Superman, Super/Man, a new movie about Christopher Reeve, is out on the 21st and 25th in limited release in movie theaters. I saw this trailer months back at CinemaCon. The official trailer just dropped this week, and it looks absolutely heart-wrenching, heartbreaking, and it's about the man, the story of the man, the hero, the legend that is Christopher Reeve, in and out of the Cape. And I will fully own, and it makes a lot of people upset that I hadn't seen Superman the movie until my 30th birthday. I had never seen the 1978 movie because it came out in 1978, which was 10 years before I existed. And then it was a movie that seemed, as a young kid, like, oh, that old Superman movie. It just never came up. It just, like, by the time I was 12, we had X-Men. When I was 10, we had Blade. The movement had already started on this modern age. I'm so glad I waited to watch the Christopher Reeve Superman until I was 30, when I was old enough to appreciate the joy and the wonder and the splendor. And I love that people that like Superman Dark have had Superman Dark for 10 years. That's not how I see Superman. I think Superman's aspirational. I'm happy for the people that had him their way, but I personally don't interpret the character that darkly. And I'm really excited to see not only the Superman we're about to get in David Cornsweet, but us showing reverence for the OG, showing reverence for Christopher Reeve, for showing us the Dick Donner movie that is so aspirational, so bright, so wonderful, and now diving even deeper into the man that brought us that. I think this is really special. I also think, from a standpoint of just celebrating the shift in DC, what a joyous occasion to celebrate a man's life that started all this as you pivot back into this more joyous Superman. This is really exciting, I think. It's only in theaters 2 days, the 21st and 25th. The trailer's online now on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, click a couple buttons, type in Super/Man, or type in Christopher Reeve story, not Reeves, there's no S, Matt Reeves, Christopher Reeve. Even Eminem rapped it wrong for years. Christopher Reeve, but that is coming out. I'm really excited to be very heartbroken, but celebrate the man. I think it's a really great idea, and I'm really excited for this documentary. The trailer is incredible. When they showed it at CinemaCon, there was not a dry eye in sight. And I thought it was also very noble of them to show this trailer and not make it about their movie. DC had a whole panel. They had a little vignette at the top of David Cornsweet, everybody welcoming and thanking, but they didn't try to tie in like, and now our Superman, because that would have felt ghoulish, in my opinion. let this moment be its moment. I'm glad this comes out the year before. This is his moment as Superman again, and then next year we can dive into the new stuff. I think it's really great. And speaking of reflecting on the past, it has been an insanely whirlwind of time through Batman lore. Batman has had ups and downs and so many takes on the character, and much like Superman is an archetypal character open to interpretation, but nearly everyone I know can at least celebrate Michael Keaton's Batman, and Michael Keaton is having his return right now as Beetlejuice all these years later, insanely, like 24 years later or some such, and he was back as Batman in Flash last year. Now the Batsignal is getting its due. The classic Batsignal is going to be a popcorn bucket. And again, this is just a little quick smattering of DC news because I really want to talk more DC, but next year is when that's really going to happen. We're going to have so much to discuss DC, starting with December's Creature Commandos, but I do want people to feel like this is a safe DC space as well as Marvel space. So I'm actually reporting on smaller DC stuff than I would the Marvel stuff because everybody thinks I'm a Marvel guy, but I'm actually a comic guy, and I hope I've made that clear. But these DC popcorn buckets based off the Batsignal have me so excited. Cannot wait to see Batman back on the big screen. Cannot wait to see these celebrating the anniversary. These are so cool. This popcorn bucket phase has been fascinating. Just wanted to share those with you, lovelies. All right, that is all the comic book news for the week. Let me know what you think of Age of Ultron and the entire James Spader situation coming back. Let me know what you think of all of the smattering of DC stuff, the Jimmy Olsen of it all. Let me know what you think of that Sonic trailer. Are you going to be checking out the Marvel Dummies books? Because I certainly am. Even though I've read the originals, I'm curious how they summarize. I'm just fascinated by the whole thing. Let me know in the comments below. It's time to talk about the comic books themselves. These are my favorite comics for the week of August 21st. All right, my favorite comics for the week of August 21st were, first up, Jenny Sparks #1. This is a new book from Tom King. Tom King is not only one of the writers I love most at DC with Mr. Miracle, with his take on Batman, with Strange Adventures, with so many iconic runs, but he is also one of the only writers that is in the main room of this great DC trust of all the movies going forward. There's an Authority movie already announced. Jenny Sparks is from The Authority. If you'd like to know a little bit more about The Authority, this is kind of the perfect jumping on point. It's a #1. It's that character coming back, and it's from the writer that's literally working with James Gunn in the greater DC. That's the best possible scenario if you want a tone or an idea of what's going to be happening over there. So check out Jenny Sparks #1, new Black Label book that dropped just this week. Great jumping on point. The next book I want to talk about, the second book, is going to be Local Man #13. Local Man 13 is from Image Comics, and it's beautifully a reflection of Image Comics' 90s heyday. But imagine if that character was written with the nuance of like a long-form drama and was a commentary on the cheesy machismo of the time. So Local Man is basically a guy that was banned from using the brand of his character. He got kicked off the team, but he legally can't use the branding because he's living in the age that we do now where everything's IP. So he gets referred to as like Local Man saves blah, blah, blah. But everyone hates him in his town because he brought so much bad attention to his town for being kicked out. So he's an ex-hero retired to a town where everyone hates him, that can't even use his superhero identity, but has powers and wants to help people. It's a great commentary on all sorts of things. Being middle-aged, being retired, the superhero IP world we're living in now. It's a great book top to bottom, and it got the Eisner for Best New Series last year. Highly recommend Local Man. It's on issue 13 this week, and I really recommend it. Next up, we got Miles Morales Annual for 2024. Every year in the fall, the annuals start, and they're a really cool way for you to not only check out new characters, but also for characters you already love, getting new people writing and illustrating them. I've discovered lots of illustrators and writers I love thanks to annuals, and a lot of people don't see them as having merit because they're kind of out of canon. They're like a kind of a left of center story, but you can discover new arcs, you can discover new characters, new creators. I dig annuals when they're done right. This one is absolutely done right because it is a very, very contained story. I miss Spider-Man being friendly neighborhood. I think the movies and video games and a lot of the adaptations have kind of bled into the stories themselves, and it's rare to find Spider-Man just being a friendly neighborhood guy. This is Miles Morales going to visit his grandma in Puerto Rico. And it's a very Puerto Rican story. It's talking about Puerto Rican food, the actual island of Puerto Rico. Storm shows up. It's a really cool, big story as far as the characters, but small stories as far as the story that it actually tells. And it's really cool to see the Puerto Rican side of the character. It's a big part of his identity. I was really enchanted by it. I highly recommend you check it out. Next up, we've got Nightwing 117. This one I barely need to talk about with you lovelies because we've been doing this show 4 months now, and every single month, Nightwing has made one of the That Week's in Comics top of list because Nightwing has been incredible for the last couple years. Tom Taylor writes exactly how I love Nightwing, and the art is so stunning. Redondo absolutely does the best multi-frame movement storytelling in comics right now. Like, everything feels so kinetic and powerful. This is the penultimate issue of their journey. They've been writing this book for 4 years. This is the second to last issue. I love how they're closing this arc out. Every issue's been a cliffhanger. I have no idea how it's going to end, and it ends next month. I'm going to miss it, but I'm glad it's going out on top. This is so exceptional. It's really Nightwing. All right, next up, we've got Predator versus Black Panther. You heard me. Because of the Fox rights, Predator is now a Marvel character. Ever since they bought the rights 5 years ago, they've slowly been bringing these characters in. In fact, next month, one of the big events is going to be Avengers versus Aliens, and it's the Xenomorphs. We are living in crazy times. Black Panther is a character that is in possession of a giant wealth of vibranium, which canonically makes it one of the most powerful elements in the universe, and Predator's going to want that. So it's a really cool story that actually works in canon, where Predator want to invade Wakanda to take vibranium for hunting, and then they are being hunted by Black Panther. It's a really cool blend of worlds, and it's written by Benjamin Piercy. Benjamin Piercy's been writing all the Wolverine stuff for quite some time. He's on Ghost Rider. He really knows how to write these violent characters well, and his Predator book a few months ago was incredible, so I love to see him blend his knowledge of Predator with his knowledge of Marvel in this dope book that, on paper, I'd be like, oh, that's cheesy, but when you read it, it's pretty dope, and it's kind of looks like the art you would have drawn as a kid. Like, how crazy would that be? Well, the sandbox is happening. Check this book out. All right, then we've got Venom War Carnage #1. Venom War is huge. Venom War has so many titles. It is a big summer event, fall event, really, like a spooky season event over at Marvel Comics, and Venom War Carnage is dealing with Carnage, who has become so powerful he sees himself as a god. The problem is, Carnage also has followers because he's a murderer, and human beings are weirdly obsessed with murder. So it's a commentary on what it is to be a god. If you're all-powerful, you can't die, and you got followers, aren't you a god? And that's the question this book has been asking for a couple years, and this ties into his big Venom War storyline. It's really cool theology study and psychology study, and it's also hyper-violent, so this is not one I'd recommend for the kiddies if they think they love Spider-Man. But this one is a really cool tie into Venom War. So far, I'm really loving this event, and especially this tie-in. All right, then we've got a brand new #1. This is a very approachable book. This is a book I actually made the cover of this very show back when it first started, when they first announced Wolverine Revenge. It was one of This Week's in Comics covers because Greg Capullo is doing the art, and Greg Capullo is an absolute genius. He's got a very Todd McFarlane style. He's actually one of the McFarlane apprentices that worked on Spawn for a time. His Wolverine is brutal. It's also written by Jonathan Hickman, who is writing my book of the week, which we're going to talk about here in a second. It is absolutely incredible. The writing is great. It involves basically Magneto dying, and it's sending out an EMP across the world, making the planet go black, and all of the animals and craziness taking over because people are dying left and right, and they're trapped in the Savage Land. So there's dinosaurs, there's team up with Captain America and Wolverine. Deadpool pops up in this book. Highly recommend it if you want like a really fun kinetic action book. Which brings us to the book of the week, also by Jonathan Hickman. I cannot speak higher of this Ultimate Spider-Man run. Every single issue has been an A+, A, or A-. A's are hard to get. I'm very critical. What this book does is, in the 2000s, Spider-Man needed to be modernized. They made him young. He was 15 again, like when he had his origin. And that led to an entire universe, which kind of became the basis for the MCU, to be honest. A young reinvention of Spider-Man was so necessary. What's fascinating is 20 years later, in 2024, what we need is a more mature Spider-Man, because the regular Spider-Man book's not been so hot for a while. And there's this 30-year-old Spider-Man with a beard and kids, and Mary Jane's in PR, and Spider-Man gets his powers late in life. And that means Uncle Ben is alive. He's running a newspaper with Jonah Jameson. Harry Osborn is not an enemy. They're working together in tech. It is Harry Osborn's with Gwen Stacy. It is exactly what I love about the take a left and see what happens and all the variables. But now that he gets his powers late in life, how is he going to be a different superhero? What's he going to do like in this scenario that we've seen in regular lore? And one of the things I really love is the Spider-Man suit being technology drove me nuts with the Iron Spider, because it felt like, well, Spider-Man already has powers. Why would he need the suit? It's like they knew that was a flaw, and now it's a regular guy that gets powers from the suit. The suit is the thing that helps him be Peter Parker Spider-Man, and that allows them to play with some of the symbiote lore, but through technology and the abuses of technology. And there was an issue 2 issues ago where Harry Osborn was programming the AI in the suit, and there was a very important moment where it was like, what do you want this personality to be? Whose AI should we map the personality of to speak with you in the helmet? And he chose his father. And Norman Osborn is often a malevolent voice in the head of Harry Osborn. The Goblin voice is a bad leading force. And then Peter Parker jokingly chose himself. But that allows you to have the inner, like, head bubble dialogue of Spider-Man that allows Spider-Man's quips, that allows Spider-Man to literally joke to himself. It is perfect. What happened this issue was he realized he could talk to the suit when it was off him. And that's giving those creepy symbiote vibes. Also in this issue, we're ramping up to Sinister Six. We meet a ton of new characters. I'm not going to give them away, but the road to Sinister Six starts here. We've met Kingpin. He's assembling a team, and there's some really cool reinventions of characters and some surprises as to who they chose. Couldn't speak higher of this book. It's literally perfect. I love it. It is beautifully illustrated by Marco Cicchetto. It is beautifully written by Jonathan Hickman. It reinvents lore, and it's so authentically Spider-Man. If you read one book this month, read Ultimate Spider-Man. Go back to issue 1, I beseech you. But if you need to just pick up a book today, check out issue 8. It's a pretty good jumping on point, but I'd go back to 1 and just have yourself a time. That is my book of the week. One final book of my top 9 is going to be Wonder Woman number 12. This is also from Tom King. I talked about him earlier with Jenny Sparks. This is a Wonder Woman story about basically the stick or the carrot. Right now in DC Comics, Absolute Power has Amanda Waller able to take power away from superheroes. And basically a ton of depowered heroes are trying to get their powers back, but also save the world from Amanda Waller. She's always had good reason in her mind to hate and fear heroes. We see that in Absolute Power, and we see the lengths she'll go to take them out. Right now, with everyone depowered, we're trying to solve a lot of these problems. This issue is Wonder Woman and Damian Wayne Robin trying to get the basic location of a prison where all the superheroes are being held out of Boomerang. And the whole issue is them interrogating Boomerang, but it's illustrating the power of their different personalities. Damian Wayne is the stick. Wonder Woman is the carrot. Wonder Woman is trying to get it out of him showing love, and Damian Wayne's trying to get it out of him showing violence. And it's a really cool character study on both of them that also moves the plot along, which is what Tom King does best. I think it's really genius. Great narrative, great use of these characters as a character study, really fun Boomerang stuff. Highly recommend Wonder Woman this week. It is on issue number 12. That is going to do it for my favorite comics from last week, the week of August 21st. Let's dive into the comics that are available at your local comic shop today, August 28th. And then next week, I'll be back to tell you my favorites of these. Let me know in the comments below if any of those 9 were your cup of tea. And let me know after this set what you're going to be picking up today. All right, these are the books I'm going to be checking out today from the major publishers I read from. And remember, it's in order of the most books from each publisher. So first up with the most books that we'll be checking out this week is going to be Marvel Comics. This week, they're releasing Aliens vs. Avengers. I talked about that a few moments ago. Didn't realize it was the next week. Issue 1 of Aliens vs. Avengers drops this week. We've got Amazing Spider-Man number 56, as well as Captain America number 12. Shazam Curse of Kane number 1. That's dealing with the Ben Reilly stuff and Kane coming back. We've got Deadpool Team Up number 1. That is Rob Liefeld's last ever Deadpool story kickoff. He is retiring from writing or illustrating Deadpool. This is his last hurrah with Deadpool, and this is issue 1 of that final miniseries. We've got Fantastic Four number 24. This is continuing my favorite Fantastic Four run of all time. I love Ringo's run. I love Kirby's run. I love Hickman's run. This one is something really, really special. Couldn't recommend it more. Incredible Hulk Annual number 1, also out this week. Like I said earlier, annuals sometimes are a good way to access characters you might not be reading. We've also got the Marvel 85th Anniversary Special, little vignettes and one-shots of characters you might know and love. NYX number 2, as well as Phases of the Moon Knight number 1, both dropping as well. We've got Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider number 4, Star Wars Ahsoka number 2, Ultimate X-Men number 6. I love the Ultimate run. The Ultimate X-Men is still my weakest of them, but I'm really thinking there's going to be this big turning point where everything comes together. I'm hoping it's with issue 6, because traditionally that would be the end of a trade paperback in the old way where it used to be 1 through 6, and this feels like it might be that big conclusion I've been looking for. Then a more zombie-its, that's Zombie Symbiotes number 1. That is exactly what it sounds like. We've also got Venom Separation Anxiety number 4. This is cool because it's from David Michelinie, who was the original writer of Venom back with Tom McFarlane was illustrating it. So it's that pulpy, funny 90s Venom back again, and it's the original writer. Venomverse Reborn number 3, as well as X-Force number 2. Great jumping on points here, folks. If you love X-Men, if you liked X-Men 97, if you're excited about the X-Men stuff, there's only 2 issues of each of these runs so far. There's a ton of X-Men comics, but they're only in their 2nd issue. So if you want the more violent, the more Merc level, X-Force. If you want the more team-based dynamics, X-Men. If you want a lot of lore and your Wolverine, your more adventure, Uncanny. So X-Force number 2, as well as X-Men number 3 are out this week. Over from Image Comics, there's a ton of stuff. I'm just going to highlight the stuff I'm most excited for. From Image, my big book of the week is going to be Grommets number 4. This is from one of my favorite writers working, Rick Remender, who writes Deadly Class, who's so good at Sacrificers. But this is an 80s comic around skateboarding. It is literally a slice-of-life book where it feels like you're just living in the 80s. It's got tons of Easter eggs in the background. It's like the old Taco Bell sign. Like, it's very much set in the 80s, music from the 80s, and it feels like Dazed and Confused, but in the 80s. It's such a fun time, and it's skateboarding. I really love this book. It's a nice, like, What a rest. We've also got The Last Mermaid, number 6. That's an action-adventure book and lots of cool new mythology. Nights, number 10, is one of the best spooky season books I can imagine. It's an insane cast of characters. Some are vampires, some are zombies. They're all friends. It's weird. It's like teen angst with supernatural characters thrown in. We got The Sacrificers, number 11, another Rick Remender book. Highly recommend that there. Another huge book from Image this week is, of course, Saga. Saga number 68. Saga is back as of 2 months ago. It took another year hiatus, and they just came back 2 months ago. So we had a 7-year hiatus, came back for 2 years, took 10 months off, and now we're back again. I love this book. It kills me when there's a time off, but when it's back, it feels like a friend is visiting. This book is just so weird and big, and every panel tells a whole story, and so cumulatively at the end of an issue, you're exhausted. Could not recommend Saga more. Issue 68 is out this week. Void Rivals number 12. This is from the great Robert Kirkman, responsible for Invincible, The Walking Dead, lots of great stuff, and he is working in the G.I. Joe universe, which is now the G.I. Joe Transformers universe, and these are new characters that share those two universes and kind of bring them all together. Over from DC, we've got Absolute Power Origins number 2, Absolute Power Task Force 7 number 5. That's all that Absolute Power event stuff I was talking about in the main review section. We've got Batman Dark Age number 5. This is Mike Allred, one of the classic artists at both Marvel and DC, doing a older Bruce Wayne looking back at his life Elseworld story that's been really solid so far. We've got Batman the Brave and the Bold number 16, Detective Comics number 1088, a Mr. Freeze-centric issue, The Flash number 12. Great jumping on point because Simon Spurrier is writing some really heady, weird stuff over at Flash, and it's a really fun time to be jumping on that book. Gotham City Sirens number 4, as well as Green Arrow number 15. Green Arrow has betrayed all of his heroes, and he's working with Amanda Waller. I'm hoping one of these issues out soon will explain what caused that impetus to the extreme that he's taken it. One of my favorites at DC right now is going to be John Constantine Hellblazer Dead in America. That is on issue 8 this month. It's a very long title, but it is literally a Hunter S. Thompson toned book where it's about what America is meant to be, what America's become, through the eyes of a Brit who can talk to the dead. Constantine is such a fascinating character. His view on America is my jam. Loving the commentary that this book represents, and the stories themselves are great. Nice House by the Sea is the sequel to The Nice House by the Lake. Nice House by the Lake was one of my favorite books of 2022. Nice House by the Sea is absolutely killing it. Only on issue 2. It's a supernatural story set in a world where a bunch of friends find out their friend was in fact an alien, was cultivating them to save them, but everyone else in the world died, and how you'd react to that. And then finally, Power Girl number 12 is out this week, as well as Zatanna, Bring Down the House number 3, which is a great Black Label book over at DC. Zatanna's one of my faves. And 0 Hour 30th Anniversary Special. Insanely, 1994 was in fact 30 years ago, so we're at the 30th anniversary of 0 Hour. Over at IDW, not a ton for me this week, but there is a new Sonic the Hedgehog book, number 72, as well as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Black, White, and Green, number 4. From Dark Horse, also only a couple things, but they're big ones. Anansi Boys, number 2, from my buddy Mark Bernardin. Incredible writer. This book is so captivating. Beautiful David Mack cover, really fun time, and a really impactful story based off a Neil Gaiman original story. Then we've got Nemesis Rogues Gallery from Mark Miller, and you guys know I love my Nemesis books. Boom Studios this week, we got a new Berserker book with Berserker, The Lost Book of B, number 1. There's a couple smaller books, but then my big one of the week is going to be Something is Killing the Children, number 40. We've had 6 months of anthology stories where it was just us having Erica Slaughter flashback adventures, and the narrative got to pause. We got to take a breath. We had 33 issues of this one continuous big story. I really love taking 6 months to go deeper into her lore and meet some new characters. Now we're back on that main through line with issue 40, and I'm really excited to explore where we are. So this book has done me no wrong. It's good when it's telling one narrative. It's good when it's doing anthology stuff. I love the art. I love the book. Something is Killing the Children, number 40 this week. That is going to do it. Those are the 70, I think it's actually like 52. Those are the 52 books I'm reading this week. Let me know in the comments below which one you're excited for. Let me know what of the books I reviewed last week you enjoyed, if you checked any of those out. If I missed any books, if there's something you're excited that's coming out this week, please let me know in the comments below. And let's talk about the news. There's lots of stuff coming out. Thank you so much, lovelies. This episode might have been lighter edited. My family's in town, and frankly, editing takes me too long, so it might have been like a little more hodgepodge. If it's lacking, I apologize. Luckily, it's on YouTube, so it's free, so I hope you're okay with that. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.